After several years of lying dormant, Super Monkey Ball is back, with the remake of a game that fans of the series are relatively mixed on. It really isn't a triumphant return for the series, is it? But I understand where Sega was coming from here. With the barrage of remakes releasing in this day and age, they wanted to take the opportunity to improve upon Banana Blitz. In my original retrospective on the Super Monkey Ball series, I cited Banana Blitz as the cause of the series' downfall. The first two games in the series had levels focused on a core idea. They were abstract shapes that tested accuracy in movement, speed, bouncing, bumping, and other physics-based concepts. Each level is so structurally different from the last, and it results in the game being consistently engaging straight through to the end, and immensely replayable due to the depth in its level design, physics, and controls. Yes, perhaps most importantly of all, the games were controlled using only the analog stick. The things that were capable with the accuracy of the GameCube's control stick is what made the series so endearing and replayable in the first place. Those octagonal edges and just the right amount of tension in the control stick made insane bouncing and pinpoint accuracy in stages possible. All of these maneuvers can be pulled off by mastering the subtle depth of the game's controls. Which is why when Banana Blitz threw that out the window for motion controls and a momentum shifting jump button, I was less than pleased. But it's the dawn of a new day. Banana Blitz HD is out. You can now play the game with an analog stick, and Sonic the Hedgehog is an unlockable character. With all this on the table, how will this game be received in the modern day? Oh, with a generally mixed reception? Wow, it's almost like merely switching a control scheme isn't enough to fix a fundamentally flawed game. Why they didn't remaster the original Monkey Ball games instead is beyond me, and I fear I'll never know the answer. But for now, let's revisit this game. Let's rediscover where things went wrong, and why remastering this game won't be enough to save it from mediocrity. I'm Liam Triforce, and this is Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz Revisited. The original Banana Blitz aimed to compensate for its new control scheme with level design that completely rethinks the thesis of Super Monkey Ball. Most levels are now more akin to Marble Madness than anything else the series has seen thus far, landing the game amidst a plethora of others trying to do the exact same thing. Problem is, Super Monkey Ball was previously an incredibly unique take on this type of game. When you look at an old Labyrinth game and play around with it for a while, you might be able to imagine what it would look like in the form of a video game. Simply translating this game is one thing, but it's another to take advantage of the medium to create something that is impossible in reality. That is what the core of Monkey Ball was. The accuracy of analog control, combined with levels that defied all expectations for a game of its kind. Taking a step back for the sake of creating a gimmicky Wii launch title was not a step the series needed to take. This results in a string of pointlessly vapid level design that attempts to imitate the series' direct inspiration. It's a consistent problem throughout the game. Levels are generally just wavy lines with occasional hazards placed throughout, or drawn-out mazes with half-baked ideas. For example, take a look at a few of these layouts. They're flat, uninspired, and are only there to fulfill a quota. When you look at back-to-back levels from the first two games in the series, they're all unique and wonderfully abstract. It honestly baffles me how much thought and care went into designing each level. I wish I could say the same about Banana Blitz though. And if that weren't enough, this was the first game in the series to predominantly feature the most pathetic element the series has ever implemented: guardrails. In my original video, I compared them to putting up the bumpers in bowling. Essentially, they catch you in situations where accuracy isn't a viable option due to the motion controls being vastly inferior to an analog stick. While guardrails are far more egregious in future Monkey Ball games, especially Monkey Ball 3D, they make some levels pathetically easy. There are also parts of levels where you have no choice but to wait. No matter how fast you go upon starting the level, you'll have to wait for this door to open or for this platform to rise, for example. It's repetitive and dull. This ties into the game's strange obsession with slides. Slides in the previous Monkey Ball games were few and far between, and they were differentiated between based on how they tested your accuracy in turning and adjusting momentum on the fly. To this day, there hasn't been a Monkey Ball level that plays with physics quite like Gravity Slider. The speed you can acquire is insane, and upon going for bananas along the side ramps, you'll need to readjust your positioning as quickly as possible. Here, most of the slides blend together, much like the other levels, and give you a false sense of exhilaration. There isn't much in the way of hazards in these slide levels, instead it's about building up speed as you make your way to the goal. Maybe you'll have some bumps or other obstacles in slide levels, but that's as far as they go. What is simply building up speed and reaching the goal testing? Maintaining control at these speeds? I guess that's fair, but most of the levels in this game don't require you to move very fast. They're usually about maintaining balance and navigating obstacles, a reasonable estimate for a game controlled with a Wii Remote. However, all of this compensation for a control scheme not suited to the kind of game that Super Monkey Ball had become at this point, resulted in a game that is generally uninspired and soulless in comparison. Now you might be thinking, wow, a more accurate control scheme would make most of these levels even easier than they were before. And you're right, they are. Banana Blitz HD gives you an unprecedented amount of control over your monkey. And by unprecedented, I mean it was only unheard of if you had never played a Super Monkey Ball game before. As I've stated countless times, the series has been built on accuracy in its control. The subtle depth and tilting and snapping of the control stick in multiple directions based on physics puzzles is what makes the original game so compelling. However, when giving the player this much control in a game designed around motion controls and the room for error that they invite, the game becomes an absolute joke in most areas. Levels that were an organic challenge due to the difficulty of adjusting motion controls on the fly are now an absolute cakewalk as you can speed past virtually any hazard, finally in full control of your monkey of choice. Sure, it makes the game fantastic for accessible speedrunning, but it offers little reward in the face of landing 6 shots in the insane level design of the previous games in the series. Whereas those levels were already challenging and speedrunning them meant mastering them for another reward, in Banana Blitz HD, speed is the name of the game, but for all the wrong reasons. This is a persistent problem towards the end of the game, and it makes for an inconsistent difficulty progression. For example, there's a level in World 8 that makes sense for a Wii Remote. Frantically adjusting your position as you jump over rolling balls makes for an intense challenge on the Wii. In the remaster, well, I'm sure you can guess how this goes over. Levels that were once hard and had placements that made sense in the context of the original game have been all but decimated through a new, more accurate control scheme. However, that isn't to say there aren't scenarios where the new control scheme can't flourish. Another problem with Banana Blitz's level design was sometimes it would require pinpoint accuracy from you anyway, something that is next to impossible when dealing with a Wii Remote, and yet they exist within the same game that babies you with guardrails. In the remaster, these levels actually end up feeling fair. Some of them are borderline easy, yes, but the rest of them feel like a tough test of accuracy. And that's not all when it comes to unlocking this game's full potential. Part of the reason Banana Blitz was such a mess originally was there were actually levels within it that were reminiscent of Monkey Ball's glory days, especially in the final worlds. Look at these unique structures that require skilled movement and problem solving in order to clear. It's almost like we're playing a good Monkey Ball game. Ultra Heaven 3 might seem like a test of accuracy, but it's clear that the most effective method of reaching the goal is gaining a ton of speed and clearing the bumps. The stage right after is about sharply adjusting momentum based on the turning platforms, and having the patience to clear the goal that rotates with the platform. There's levels with ramps, jumps, bumps, slopes. This is more like it. There's even a slide level in this game that I genuinely adore. A level in Smooth Sherbet has you bouncing across a slide with multiple slopes and obstacles, and steering out of the way whilst maintaining a jumping streak. Unfortunately, levels like these are the exception, not the rule. And to top it all off, the original game forced the Wii Remote upon you, preventing me, at the very least, from fully enjoying the best levels the game had to offer. Now this is where the new control scheme really makes Banana Blitz HD shine. Levels like these might be some of the hardest in the game, but they are incredibly satisfying to solve thanks to the accuracy of analog control. In fact, speedrun strats are now way more accessible than they ever were before. I found a few tricks on the fly when playing through this remaster, and I was so happy to finally be laughing and smiling again as I played a post-Amusement Vision Monkey Ball game. I was being rewarded for experimentation, something that was inaccessible in the original thanks to its crippling control scheme. Levels like these are exceptionally rare, however. They're actually rarer than they were in the original due to most of the earlier levels being pathetically easy in the face of the new control scheme. So it's a double-edged sword. Either brave the inaccessible control scheme of the original game in order to find some beauty in its bland level design, while struggling in the later stages due to these controls, or blaze through most of the stages with revamped controls in order to fully enjoy the depth of the best level design in Banana Blitz. Pick your poison. Well, in a way, Sega set out what they wanted to accomplish here, for better or for worse. A lot of these decisions resulted in Banana Blitz HD feeling like a brand new experience. The easy levels are now even easier, and the harder levels reminiscent of the original games are now much more fun to understand and solve, even if they are hard to come by. Banana Blitz HD still has the same repetitive level design of the original, it's just a lot easier to wrap your head around this time. In some areas, Banana Blitz HD comes close to standing tall amongst its older siblings. But in most other areas, it's a painful reminder of where Super Monkey Ball fell from grace. Only now you have total control over your monkey in levels that were very clearly designed around a different control scheme. And on top of all of that, what was bad in the original game is still pretty terrible here. Dash panels that are clearly placed to piss you off, they're still infuriating here. The bosses still have no reason to be in a Monkey Ball game, even if they are slightly more bearable with responsive controls. It's the very definition of a mixed bag. And it's being priced at 7 times the price you can find the original game for on eBay.ca. With this in mind, does the game warrant that price tag in content at the very least? The answer is a resounding no. If we're talking about content, this is perhaps one of the worst remasters I have ever played. I can at least commend the clean new interface and streamlining of menu navigation. It looks and feels fantastic, but it all goes downhill from there. One of the most immediately noticeable things, if you are a fan of the original game in any regard, is that most of the soundtrack has been replaced with songs that have either been featured in Monkey Ball before, or sound like they came straight from YouTube's audio library. Thankfully, they at least kept Smooth Sherbet, the best song in the game. But due to licensing issues, most of the soundtrack is gone. It was easily the game's best aspect, and I can't even indulge in the pleasure of listening to it while I play the game anymore. I gotta scooch on over to YouTube and put my headphones on while I play the game. Speaking of scooching, let's scooch on over to the minigames section. You'll notice that only 10 minigames have returned from the original. That leaves a whopping 40 of them on the cutting room floor. Obviously, most of them utilize the Wii Remote and nunchucks, so you can't expect Sega to rework them all. But that still means the original game, which is currently $7 on eBay.ca, is a better value than a $50 Canadian remaster 13 years later. Plus, when they say they've enhanced most of the minigames, what they actually mean is that you're able to control them with an analog stick. The minigames are virtually unchanged. But hey, controlling Monkey Target with an analog stick is possible. Yeah, as if that wasn't possible 3 fucking times over already. Your options are not limited. I actually really enjoyed some of the minigames in the original Wii version. I remember one of them being a goofy-ass first-person shooter that had no place being in the game. But hey, they couldn't find a way to rework the controls for the other 40 minigames. Here's an idea. Leave the game as is! Don't remaster it. Leave it as an experiment from 2006 and remaster the games that people actually enjoy. Oh, but those games are timeless. There's no point in remastering those. This was an opportunity to fix what went wrong with Banana Blitz in the first place. Well, we've already established that that mentality is bullshit, so I guess there isn't much left to discuss on that front. They could have just made an original game, but what would be easier? What would be easier if you were a company? Re-releasing an old game for a higher price, or pouring some money into a new project? And that's why we have this game. And to top it all off, the final nail in the coffin for Banana Blitz HD, they ruined Gongon's voice. Now, that is a line you shouldn't cross with me. Gongon is my child. He's my whole life. He's everything to me. And you made him sound like he smokes 50 packs a day. Sega, I am beyond disappointed. I want to close this video with simple and blunt language. If you want to experience some of the best games Sega has ever released, you can buy both Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2 together for less than the price of this remaster. However, if you want Super Monkey Ball to continue, buy the remaster. That's your ultimatum. Either give in to capitalism and hope that Sega comes to their senses and makes a great Monkey Ball again someday, which is unlikely at this point, or continue to relive the reason Super Monkey Ball left such an impact on fans of video games. Relive the reason that surgeons were using Super Monkey Ball 2 to practice for procedures. Yeah, there's an insane dissonance between these two games. It's bittersweet to see Super Monkey Ball back in the limelight again. It's both a glimmer of hope for the future, and a sad reminder of the past that continues to haunt the series. While Banana Blitz is by no means a bad game, it's a fundamentally flawed one that strayed too far from the series' philosophy, and a simple remaster isn't enough to change that. Super Monkey Ball may never be what it once was, but Sega will never find out for sure if they don't try. Good luck, Sega. Study hard. Consult former Amusement Vision employees. Pull Toshihiro Nagashi away from Yakuza for a few moments. Make something great. I'm still waiting for the day I can actually welcome the monkeys back with open arms.